Here's expert advice about how to answer a difficult scenario question on the CASPer. You are a teaching assistant, observing an interaction with a student and a professor. The student tells the professor that he believes he deserves a better mark on his paper after he compared his work to other students' work. The professor states she was very thorough and that the grade was fair. The student admits they have been struggling with anxiety, but despite this, put a lot of work into the paper. They are insistent that they deserve a better grade. The professor replies, "Everyone deals with anxiety, especially when papers are completed at the last minute." The student leaves frustrated. Question 1. What is going through your mind? Question 2. What would you say to the professor? Question 3. What if you confirmed the student was in fact making up a story to get better grades? What would you do?
Okay, so here is just overall how you could approach this. These three questions, they're related.
Yes.
So you see that last question, you could use it as your worst case scenario. So then all the responses will be incorporated into this one question. You could even answer it all, apply the full structure in question 1. Just ensure you incorporate everything in there and you would have addressed on what they're asking. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it will save you a couple of seconds from going to the next question, then coming to the next question. Okay, so let's see what you have. You said, I am concerned for the well-being of the students. It is possible that he's going through something that is causing his anxiety. Is there maybe a situational factor leading him to react this way? It could also be that the student does feel entitled to higher grades, or he feels entitled to higher grades. However, I do not have enough information to make a judgment on the student or the situation. So in this part, here's what I recommend. Expand your scope a bit. What are you mean? I am concerned. What do you think they're assessing here?
I think empathy for sure in the beginning, to see if you're able to empathize with the student. Also, I think in terms of the first question, so working on maybe problem solving, trying to identify how you would approach the situation. And yeah, I'm not sure what else I could add to that one. Communication.
Equity, right?
Okay. Equity.
Yes. So then just knowing that, okay, this is what they're assessing. So I am concerned about the student. I want to make sure that he's okay. I'm also concerned about equity, just being fair to all the other students. Because potentially if you did this for him, you would have to do it for someone else as well, right? So you want to be fair to everyone. Equity, you're concerned about that. You're concerned about the health, because I think there was a mention about his anxiety. So you really want to understand. However, I do not have all the answers. So I will gather some more information to really understand what is going on with the student and to evaluate his unique situation. So what I would remove here, is it possible that he's going through something that's causing anxiety? There may be a situational factor leading him to react that way. Leave all these event statements.
Okay.
Because you do not want to risk like you're making an assumption, you're making a judgment right off the bat before you even gather any information. So now just go ahead.
I was just going to say then in that first question, then I would talk about being concerned for the well-being, but then, so I wouldn't make any other explanations. I would just talk about how I need more information.
Yes, you would need more information in the what would you say to the professor, or because the second one is asking what would you say. So in here, you could also say, I would need to gather some more information, and who would you gather this information from? And then what would you say? It will be your event statements because you've already gathered your information. Does that make sense? So you see the suppositions, try not to include any suppositions right off the bat. It's just your concern. Identify what is the dilemma you're dealing with here. Okay, this is an issue of equity. However, I still need to consider the student and his unique situation. I want to come up with a solution that is fair for everyone involved, not just him, but other students as well. However, I don't have all the information right now to make that decision. So I'm going to speak to the other professors to understand that have had the students, to just understand what's going on. Because remember, I think the other professor said that happens all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, so you will talk to her privately again just to get an idea what's going on. You will
Mhm.
review the test, you will review the student's record. So you're going to think of everything that you can, where you could gather as much information as possible to make an informed decision. So that is what that first question would be about. The second one, what would you say to the professor? Then you said I would have a private and respectful conversation with the professor, urging her to find out more. I would, so you are the TA who's observing, right?
Mhm.
Okay. I will also make sure the student is okay as there could be a larger underlying issue at hand. After speaking to the professor about gathering more information, I would talk to the student about what is going on. So you said you would talk to the student. Is it within your scope to have that conversation with the student, or are you just in an advisory position to the professor?
I think it would be an advisory position, but that's where I feel like I'm unsure of where I would, because I feel like there's certain scenarios where I feel like it would be out of my scope or overstepping. But then I
Mm-hmm.
guess in a situation like this, it would be overstepping, and I would have to delegate the task and educate, I guess, the professor on what she could do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give her suggestions because they
Yeah.
ask you, okay, so you're the bystander, you're observing this. What is going through your mind? I'm thinking this is an issue of equity. I'm
Yes.
thinking the student, I'm concerned about the student. I want to, everybody should have, there should be a solution where everybody benefits, right? It should be fair, etc., etc. So,
Yeah.
but you would need to, I'm thinking more information is needed here from professors, and you will again list out who that information should be or where it should be gathered from. And what
Yeah.
would you say to the professor? I would encourage the professor to gather more information, to speak to these different people, right? Just as you did here. But then the part I would leave out where you yourself is going to speak to the students.
Okay.
Okay. And it's also important. Remember, self awareness is one of the attributes that are being assessed here. So it could be good to say, I am just a bystander here. So it is not within my scope to do anything myself. However, because I was asked, I would make suggestions. I can only make suggestions to the professor. This clearly shows your self awareness.
Okay.
Okay. You said if the student is okay and was just trying to get better mark, then I would educate him on the consequences of approaching a professor in this way and give him better techniques to improve his marks. Is that the best case scenario?
I'm not sure.
So the best case could be, let's assume that, you know what, there was a genuine error. After she's gathered all her information, there is a genuine error and she is going to regrade his paper just as he asked. Right? So that's the best case. And then, like we said, a worst case could be number 3, where he's just trying to manipulate the system so he could get a better grade.
Okay.
Okay. So you said if it turns out he is going through an issue in his personal life, then I would support him and speak to the professor with his permission about the issue and find a solution that both the student and the professor can agree on. So if he is going through have some personal problem, you're going to talk to him and the professor. How about offering him some resources? Again, thinking about your role.
Yeah.
So refer him to student services. If you, for example, you find out that he really had an anxiety issue, but again, you can't deal with this. This is beyond your scope. So you have to offer resources to him to help him to deal with that anxiety issue. But again, back to the question at hand, would you regrade his paper? So never forget the actual question that is being asked. Would you regrade the paper? Okay. And what if you confirm the student was in fact making up a story to get a better grade? What would you do? You say, if that is the case, I will begin with a private conversation with the student and allow them a chance to own up to their lie. I will then inform them that I know the truth and educate them on the consequences of such an action. I will then give them a chance to own up and provide them with resources to do better. Again, I would avoid the words lie, all these negative connotations. Try to just avoid them. So if I find out that if I confirm that the student was making up a story to get a better grade, I will speak to him to try to understand why is he doing this? What is he going through? And then you could go through if-then statements again, right? So if, for example, he just doesn't, because of his anxiety issue, he maybe just doesn't understand the material, and really feel like that's his only option, then you could refer him to a tutor or pair him up with a tutor to help him with the material. You could maybe offer extra classes. So when you give him solutions, be very actionable. Again, remember your problem solving skill is being assessed. So just saying, although saying, I would offer them resources, but what does that mean? What resources would you offer?
Okay.
Okay, make sense?
Implement these tips in your CASPer responses to secure a 4th quartile score.